All right, let's look at the projection of self-reflection. How what we project out there reflects our inner world, or what we hold inside is what we project outwards. There is a bidirectional relationship between how we treat ourselves and how we treat others. Projection is considered a defense mechanism where we attribute disowned aspects of ourselves to others. What irritates us most in others often reflects unacknowledged traits in ourselves. Our core beliefs about ourselves create interpretive filters through which we view others. Someone with harsh self-criticism tends to perceive others as judging them similarly. Our early relationship patterns form internal working models that shape our self-concept and expectations of others. These models create self-reinforcing cycles. Someone with an insecure attachment style might doubt their worthiness and suspect others' intentions. Research by psychologist Christine Neff on self-compassion shows that those who treat themselves with kindness rather than harsh judgment demonstrate greater empathy and compassion towards others. Similarly, studies on mirror neurons suggest we internally simulate others' experiences, making our treatment of others neurologically connected to our self-experience. The key implication here is that our treatment of others is intrinsically linked to the treatment of ourselves. If we habitually repress or judge our own emotions, we may have a diminished capacity to resonate with those same emotions in others. Developing compassion towards our experiences can enhance our capacity to empathize with others. Again, that connection between how we treat ourselves, we treat others, to a neurological level. Our brain uses its own experiential machinery to understand others' experiences, creating a neurological bridge between self and others. This is not just metaphorical or philosophical. It is wired into the very structure of our brains. Our brains are designed to resonate with each other's experiences, creating a biological foundation for empathy and compassion. It is a profound reminder that the boundaries between self and others are more permeable than we often realize. This bidirectional relationship is a profound path for growth. By changing how we relate to ourselves, we transform our relationships with others and vice versa. This creates multiple entry points for healing and development. So we have all these distortions, right? We've just been talking about. How can you begin to identify them? How can you begin to start seeing them, becoming aware, self-aware? Because, man, you can go for most of your life not realizing that you're living in a distorted world and you're just there pointing your fingers at everybody. So, how can you begin to start seeing them so you can start living a more balanced and grounded life, more vibrant, a fuller life, and actually evolve to so much more, because your capacity for growth lies in your truth, not in the false sense of self. You can start identifying your distortions by paying close attention to your assumptions and judgments of others. There's your first step. assumptions. So, I'm sure you know what assumption is. Judgments. And let's add their triggers. Okay, triggers is another one. But your assumptions and your judgments of others are when you can start seeing your distortions. Because an assumption of a person, of anybody else, is a story that you have within you that you just projected out there. And of course, judgments. Noticing when you blame others can reveal immature distortions in your thought process. This reflection encourages you to challenge your assumptions, which can then uncover underlying fears and insecurities. By acknowledging these patterns, you can break free from them, leading to healthier perspectives and interactions, and relationships, and a life, and mental health and well-being. It leads to the betterment of everything. People. Unfortunately, now we have to deal with the digital age and the self. How is the digital age affecting our sense of self? Yes, that's a world that is only going to create more distortions. So it's imperative that we do this work now, because more and more we're becoming a digitized society or people. Technology is profoundly transforming our sense of self. We now manage multiple identities across various digital platforms, each potentially showing different facets of ourselves. The gap between online personas and lived experiences can create unique cognitive dissonance and alienation. This is something that we have yet to see, because we don't have anyone from this generation that is old enough to have shown us what all this social media is doing to our sense of self. But more and more, our experiences in real life are diminishing, while our experiences in social media are increasing. As we spoke earlier, that we have these two senses of selves. I mean, it's not two senses of selves, but it's two ways we can create a sense of self, which is the experienced self and then the narrative self. You want them both to work coherently together, in alignment. But if kids are having less and less experience, what is that going to do? Leave them empty? It's going to create an emptiness within. And they're going to be trying to grasp a sense of self purely through this digital world. So, for parents out there, get kids climbing trees, get them playing outside, get them playing with other kids. Try to avoid social media integration into their life as much as possible and as long as possible. Give them real life experiences to remember. Social media encourages constant comparison and external validation, potentially disconnecting us from our internal sense of worth and authentic desires. The platforms are designed to stimulate dopamine responses, creating cycles of seeking validation through likes and follows. It seems like one of the other dangers of social media, amongst many, especially for the youth, is that it's not giving them the chance to fully develop an authentic sense of self. Because they're all chasing validation and chasing this ideal self that they see online. really distorting who they're meant to be. Rather than manifesting and learning from within, at a very young age, they are presented with ideals. And through this dopamine chase, this addiction of dopamine, man, you can only imagine what it's doing to their self-worth, their self-identity, their sense of who they are and who they're meant to be. It also seems like they are not having the same level of creative process, of creative play to learn about themselves. They're numbed with all this external information, all constructed to keep them addicted. Creative play helps kids learn about themselves, helps them manifest an authentic sense of self. Digital media, and it's not necessarily digital media, but it's social media. It's really warping and distorting a lot of kids. Social media encourages constant comparison and external validation, potentially disconnecting us from our internal sense of worth and authentic desires. And this is what I mean when I say that by halting the play of creativity, kids are not able to form and manifest an authentic desire. And not only that, but by watching all these other people, kids, information, characters made on social media, they're getting sucked in and thinking, that's what I want to be. That's who I want to be. I want to do that. Maybe because they want to get attention. Maybe because they want to be loved. Maybe because they want to feel worthy, accepted. And then they chase these false ideologies that they want them to become. And if they don't match that, it creates suffering. At the same time, digital spaces allow the exploration of identity previously impossible. People can find communities that reflect aspects of themselves that might be unwelcome or misunderstood in their physical environment. Is that a good thing? Yeah, it can be a good thing, for sure. Can that be a bad thing? Definitely. Definitely. There is many extremely harmful communities in the web that people encourage each other and feed each other with it. Is it more positive than harm? I don't think so. I do think that is increasing harm more than good in these underground communities. As AI becomes more integrated into daily life, new questions arise about the boundaries of selfhood. If AI assistant learns to predict our preferences and communicate in our voice, where does our self end and the technology begin? What happens when our digital footprint persists beyond our physical existence? In this rapidly evolving landscape, practices that anchor us in embodied experience, meditation, time in nature, and face-to-face connections become increasingly important counterbalances to the fragmentation and disembodiment of digital life. More than ever, ancient wisdom, from Socrates, Plato, ancient philosophers, is really becoming very important to practice now. And nature, connection to nature. Following through from the distortions that AI is connecting, let's discuss the shadow self. The parts of us that we are not ready to see. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow describes those aspects of ourselves that we've disowned, repressed, or pushed into unconsciousness. Something to understand is not that we consciously or intentionally push these parts of us into our subconscious. Usually, when we disown or repress parts of us into our subconscious, there's not something that happens like that in adulthood, aware of what you're doing intentionally. This is something that happens when you're a child. Earlier, we discussed how children at times have to repress their authenticity, their authentic self, to be able to be accepted by family or society. That is the beginning of us starting to repress and to push down all these parts of us into that unconscious place. Okay, it's not something that happens intentionally. Now, when you become an adult and the world is trying to show you those parts, and you don't do the work after you see what you're projecting, after you've been given the information, you don't listen, then it's not that you per se choose to bury these things in the subconscious, but it's to say that you're choosing to leave them there as a habitual and comfort state. Because doing the work to own these parts back, to accept these parts of yourself, and to evolve beyond them is a hell of a job. It's a hell of a journey. It's extremely rewarding, but the start of it is extremely hard. So when life has shown you those parts and you choose not to, then you're choosing to leave them in the repressed state. Often these qualities that we repress or we keep in the unconscious are qualities deemed unacceptable by our family or society. Things like sexual desires, vulnerability, fear, anger, lack of responsibility, desires deemed wrong by our culture or family, any kind of desire. Even positive aspects of ourselves we repress. Things like creativity, intelligence, talents that go against family or cultural expectations. Of course, all of these have a connection to authenticity, but we also repress our authenticity and our self-truth. If, of course, this has been deemed wrong by our family or culture. Carl Jung saw this as especially tragic because it represents the repression of the self with a capital S, the archetype of wholeness and integration that represents our fullest potential. When our connection to this authentic self is pushed into the shadow, we experience a profound disconnection from our purpose and vitality. This is how the false persona is created. An adaptive mask that gains approval but sacrifices genuine self-expression. The energy required to maintain this false self contributes to psychological symptoms like depression, anxiety, and a pervasive sense of meaninglessness. What makes the shadow important for understanding projection is that these disowned aspects of ourselves don't simply disappear. They operate unconsciously and are often projected onto others. We become irritated by traits in others that we cannot acknowledge in ourselves. The person who most annoys us may be reflecting back our own denied qualities. I think this is quite humbling. So I ask you, think of anybody, usually partners, who piss you off a lot, annoy you, anger, jealousy, fear. Think back. Or if you're in a current situation that you find yourself getting triggered all the time by this person, humble yourself. Maybe you're just acknowledging or seeing the traits in them that you have yet to acknowledge. I have experienced this so intensely. When I look back, I see everything I was blamed for, everything I was accused, he was doing. I wasn't doing it. Everything. I didn't see it at the time. I was too busy defending myself. But now, when I look back, I see. It's difficult to see, because when someone accuses you of being unfaithful, of dressing provocative, of not taking care of yourself, where you are not unfaithful, where you dress just fine, where you are taking care of yourself. The last thing I thought at the time with my immature, nervous system, I thought he would never do those things because, well, he's accusing me of doing it, so clearly he wouldn't do it. Well, I was mistaken, because he did everything that he accused me of doing. So, I challenge you that when you feel triggered, the first person you look at is yourself. What are you holding that you're denying? And take your time in looking. Take your time. You may not see it right away. It may be too painful to see it right away. Your whole being has been built to suppress this. So take your time. Look at it from many angles. See what you see. The great thing about this work is that the shadow doesn't only hold negative aspects. It also contains positive potentials that we haven't claimed. Sometimes we project our creativity, our strengths, our wisdom onto others because we don't yet recognize these capacities in us. So, as I said earlier, that if someone triggers you, to look in yourself first. The same thing goes for positive. If you find yourself very inspired by someone or in awe, well, there's a big chance you hold that quality. That's also very difficult to see. Shadow work involves the gradual process of bringing these disowned aspects into consciousness. By acknowledging and integrating our shadow, we reclaim energy spent on repression and projection, leading to greater wholeness and authentic self-expression. This is not something that happens overnight, of course. It requires courage and an unwavering commitment to understanding yourself. Listen carefully. Okay? Before you can give your best self to the world, you need to first be at peace with yourself. This is the fundamental principle of self-love. But of course, to be at peace with yourself, you need to acknowledge these parts of who you are, these repressed parts. You have to accept them and then evolve beyond them, or evolve with them if they are positive aspects. But if you're someone who, let's say, does not want to follow the traditional culture of your family, you have to look at that and accept it. You have to accept the types of person you like. You have to accept the types of job you want. You have to accept the kinds of people you want around you. You have to accept the type of life you want to live. If all of this goes against what you were brought up to be, and you have it deeply repressed, you will never have internal peace. You have to accept these parts of you. Once you recognize and become aware of these parts, that's just the first step. Almost not even a full step. That's 0.5 of a step. Then the real work comes, where you must actively practice letting go of old aspects and shifting your habits, responding differently to the same situations. And a situation that triggers you, whether it's from your partner or your family or your coworker, but usually happens with the closest to us, the people closest to us, our lovers, our husbands, wives. That's where you change. Is by doing the work of actively shifting your process of response to the same situations. And this is the process of learning to love yourself so you can truly love others. You may think that loving yourself is easy, fluffy, pretty, baths and wine, or whatever people like, baths and good food, or sleeping in. Sure, those can be aspects of loving yourself. But the true journey to love yourself is to learn to accept your true self and to dissolve the false self, the egoic sense of self, the protective parts of you. No matter the fear, to choose your truth is the journey to learning to love yourself. And when you do that, you can learn to truly love others. You have to, however, understand that loving yourself does not excuse you from responsibility. Actually, in the contrary, part of loving yourself is taking responsibility. Taking responsibility is the path to empowerment. We choose to love yourself is together. And know that choosing yourself is not about rejecting others, living in selfishness, or disregarding the people around you. That's why it's so tricky and difficult. Because it requires you to be considerate of others, to take responsibility, yet to forgive yourself, to accept parts of you that you deem unworthy, that you deem wrong, that you judge, that you're afraid of. Accepting those parts is incredibly difficult and not pretty. So, learning to love yourself has a massive sense of responsibility and consideration for yourself and others. But taking this journey of integrating your shadow gives you purpose, direction, and meaning. You create an inner peace and calm that no external chaos can disturb it. I assure you, if you don't believe me, do it and we'll see. The issue is that it takes a long time. Like I said, at least 2 years to begin the process where you start seeing yourself becoming more fluid, where you start to get excited about who you're becoming, where you recognize how valuable this work is. So it's not something that you can just try once and say, ha, I prove you wrong, or ha, you're right. It's not. It's a crazy level of commitment that you need to have. So, but what do you got to lose? The false sense of self? If it's solid, the sense of self who you think you are, then it's not going anywhere. If it falls, then it was never meant to be there because it was never solid. And you will only be grateful for this work. The only thing you'll be grateful if you truly take this path. When you've been taught that prioritizing your authentic self is a betrayal to the people around you, the first steps of this journey feel incredibly difficult, filled with angst, guilt, and fear. You can't truly imagine how it feels until you do it. And if you do it, don't stop. Don't stop. Hang on. It will get better. Carl Jung describes it so well. He says that when you finally let go and take the journey to self-truth and self-love, the opposite of dread happens. It's like a fog that clears up, and you start to see more clearly. The people who genuinely support you remain by your side, while those who only drain your energy and never truly value you fade away. This is not a coincidence. It directly reflects your internal transformation. It is the alignment within you. When you begin to align with your truth, it's such a wonderful feeling. When you begin to align with your truth, where your inner world aligns with your external reality, as Carl Jung called it, being in synchronicity with oneself, the alignment with your thoughts, actions, and external circumstances, the world shifts to mirror that alignment. And let me tell you from experience, there's no better feeling than full alignment, being absolute fluid and effortless in who you are. Once you feel it, once you start to become that, you will never want to go back. It is a sickness to be misaligned. You feel it in your body. You waste so much more energy. But when you're aligned, it is a release of tension. It is a pleasure in your body, a clarity, a peace that nothing else can give you. Nothing, literally, nothing else can give you that. And although you may fear abandonment or punishment during the initial shifts of change, you are not left alone. It is as if the universe responds to your self-truth by reshaping your environment to match it. This is not just in concept. This is not just philosophical. This is not magical, whatever woo-woo. This is real. It is practical. But until you experience it, until you take that journey, for you, it may be some kind of woo-woo magic concept. So don't bash it till you try it. It is not always easy to take care of yourself, to be kind to yourself, to choose yourself, or much harder to be yourself. Now that we have discussed what the self actually means, I would say these words should sound more profound. And when I say be yourself, I don't mean in concept, just be yourself. I mean in practice, in the journey that it takes you to your true self. And the reason why I say it's hard is because often we have to go against the built identity, the ego. So when someone says, take care of yourself, it's not just simply sleeping early, eating good food, having water. It's actually to take care of your true self, the authentic self. And if you're repressing that part, you are most definitely not taking care of yourself. You're actually betraying the self. So no matter what you do, no matter how much good food you have, no matter how much good sleep you have, although those are very important for this work, you need to be well fed, well rested. But it doesn't matter how pristine your life is. If your true self is repressed, you will feel empty. You can still feel repressed or depressed. You can still feel like a death has happened within you. When everyone goes through the deconstruction of the false self, one normally suffers a considerable period of disorientation, of wandering in the wasteland, wandering between two worlds, one dead, powerless to be born. No career, no relationship, no direction or desire emerges, for one is absent, spirited, adrift, without vision of a renewed sense of self. James Hollis. This is the shift from the false self to the true self. In that shift, you feel completely lost. When you have constructed a life from the false self, there will come a time that everything will feel lifeless, including your relationships. Everything is tainted with falsehood. And in that shift, the true self must learn to become. You will feel as if you don't recognize yourself, walking into total unknown, but with calmness of truth and regained energy and vitality for life. This process requires an incredible journey of radical self-truth. Choosing your truth is not just about setting boundaries, but acknowledging uncomfortable truths about yourself that you've ignored or repressed. Past decisions that might not have been aligned or authentic to you. However, this process is not about judging yourself. It's about accepting and learning to be better, learning to choose better, and to learn to live by your self-truth. It's very important that you hear the learn part. It's a journey of learning. You won't know how to do it right away. You have to learn who that is. You will encounter resistance in this journey. Old habits will arise. You must resist them the moment they occur. As a fighter learns in the ring, you must apply in the moment of action, in the fight. You must choose differently than your habitual self desires. True courage and transformation happens when we walk into the unknown by reacting differently in the same circumstances. The devil you know is not better than the devil you don't know. It'll be so scary. People who know you might not understand your choices. And that's okay, allow them to. It will be difficult, but you must choose that journey regardless of anything. When you enter this journey, you don't do it for validation, but for genuine, authentic connection. Don't seek for approval. You seek genuine connections. You create relationships that nourish your soul. The right people will always be there, not because they need you, but because they value you. And in this journey, you must develop an intricate awareness of your body, and emotions to understand the ego and old habits. You'll have to understand these different feelings you have in your body. When I say be aware of your body, when I say be aware of your emotions, I mean literally the nervous system. Be aware of the feelings in your body, because you'll need to understand what part of you is resisting and what part of you is expanding or wants to expand. Is the ego resisting your expansion? You'll need to understand those two different parts of you. And that comes from that depth of self-awareness in your emotional body, in your nervous system. This is where triggers are a massive opportunity. Triggers are bodily sensations, right? If you have anger, what do you feel? Everybody feels something different. You may feel burning in your chest. You may feel your hands get numb. You may feel shaky. You may feel your stomach shrinking. You may feel heat. If you have fear, you may feel numbness to the hands. You may feel a tightening in your chest. You may feel... So these sensations, those exact feelings is what you need to pay attention to and listen. That's where all the knowledge is. Again, this doesn't happen overnight. Okay? It can take a long time. You may even need a guide. You may be an emotional coach. You may need a therapist. You may need someone who has some knowledge of guiding you through all that, all those emotions, all those sensations. And it's important that you listen to them without judgment. Something that I do that I think is very important is that if you feel discomfort in your body, it's not labeling it as something negative. It is just a chemical reaction in your body. So you're feeling fear, okay? Let's not think that's a negative thing. Let's think that's your body telling you something. So let's take away the word fear and you feel, okay, I used to feel shaking on my hands, depending on what it was. Tightening on the chest. When you focus on that, you listen to it. There is so much knowledge in there. I am going to make another episode about this specific work, the body work. So we will get into it a little bit deeper there. But just for now, become aware of the sensations in your body. That's where the journey to growth is. So tuning into your triggers and judgments about others offers valuable insight into yourself. Often the accusations you make reflect your own behaviors and fears. For instance, if we're annoyed by someone's lack of sincerity, it may indicate a need to examine your own honesty. People and circumstances provide mirrors to guide you to your inner self. Recognizing these projections offers a chance and an opportunity for self-discovery and personal growth. And adding to this, we attract people that hold similar aspects to ourselves. So if someone is not sincere with you, maybe you've attracted someone with a similar level of dishonesty. This practice helps us analyze our reactions and assumptions as a mirror for our internal landscape. By shifting our focus inward, we can better understand our feelings and behaviors, leading to positive change. Look, you can't hide this. How you live will eventually show. You can't hide the masks you wear. Eventually they will break. Inauthenticity will be reflected back to you. The people you keep close reflects what is within you. And in this process of self-acceptance, it does not mean you're okay with everything you've done. It means you understand your mistakes with compassion and forgiveness while committing to learn from them, not repeat them, and choose differently. And I promise you, in this self-truth journey, you will meet people who will accept you as you are. Decisions will come with clarity and ease rather than struggle. And inner peace is the natural result of honoring your needs, respecting your boundaries, and living by your self-expressed truth. By taking, practicing, and living this journey, you become an inspiration for others. You will be changed forever, and you will be grateful of that. It is as if the fabric of the universe aligns with you. You will see challenges as stepping stones to strengthen your inner peace and truth, not as paralyzing circumstances to fail. Change does not occur without resistance. The friction between the old and the new is what makes you into your greatest self. Picture this. Picture letting go of everything that limits you, of everything you don't need, and of letting go of everything that is not serving or true to you. Imagine the freedom, the space, and the capacity of who you can become. In this journey, I assure you, you don't lose anything. You're making space for life and much more. True transformation begins when you stop looking for it in the outside and start looking from within. We are meant to live by who we are meant to be, not by society's expectations, rigid demands, or the box we were taught to live in. The fearful voice that you believe is your truth is not you. The imprints from others convince you to stay stagnant in the misery you know. You can begin this process at any age. Come on. And if you think that you have nothing to fix, nothing to change, nothing to evolve, you're wrong, you do. Trust the process of walking your self-truth and your self-expressed authenticity. Trust it. And the sad truth is, will you die before you meet yourself? Live by your self-truth and witness what the universe has for you. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Onwards and upwards. Ciao.